Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into something a little different.
Oh.
A sermon by Dr. Stephen J. Daniels Sr. titled, Too Blessed to Blow This.
Okay.
It's a powerful message about recognizing God's favor in your life and the responsibility that comes with it.
You know, that title really grabbed me.
Yeah.
It's so relatable. We've all experienced those moments where we feel like we're on the verge of something great, but also terrified of messing it up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Dr. Daniels doesn't shy away from the tough parts of that.
Right.
He talks about the pressure that comes with God's favor, the temptations that can derail us, and the importance of making choices that honor the gifts we've been given.
He uses the story of Joseph to illustrate these points.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically the part where Joseph resists the advances of Potiphar's wife, whom Dr. Daniels gives the name Shanisha.
Oh, that's good.
Which I thought was a brilliant touch.
It makes the story feel so immediate.
Yeah.
Like something that could happen to anyone, even today.
And that's the beauty of Dr. Daniels' preaching. He takes these ancient stories and makes them relevant to our modern lives.
I agree.
He doesn't just tell us what happened.
Right.
He helps us understand why it matters.
Okay.
And what we can learn from it.
So let's unpack some of those lessons. What were some of the key takeaways that stood out to you?
One of the things that really struck me was Dr. Daniels' emphasis on the connection between favor and responsibility.
Okay.
He argues that God's favor isn't just about our personal enjoyment. It's about equipping us to fulfill a purpose.
He uses the example of Joseph.
Yes.
Who, despite being a slave, finds favor with his master.
Right.
And is put in charge of the entire household.
Exactly. And it's that very favor that leads to the central conflict.
Okay.
Potiphar's wife, Shanisha, becomes attracted to Joseph and tries to seduce him.
And this is where it gets really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Joseph, even though he's in a vulnerable position, chooses to resist temptation.
Right.
He recognizes that betraying his master's trust would be a great sin against God.
Wow.
Even though he could have easily gotten away with it.
What's fascinating here is that Joseph's reasoning goes beyond simple fear of punishment. He understands the deeper implications of his actions.
Okay.
That betraying trust and giving into temptation ultimately damage his relationship with God.
It makes you think, what compromises are we tempted to make in our own lives?
Right.
Even when we know they go against our values or could harm others.
And Dr. Daniels really challenges us to consider this question.
Okay.
Can God trust you with the favor he has bestowed upon you?
That's a good one.
It's a powerful question because it suggests that favor comes with responsibility.
I like that.
That's not just about our personal enjoyment or gain.
So it's not enough to just acknowledge the blessings in our lives.
Right.
We need to actively work to align our thoughts and actions with what we believe.
Right. And Dr. Daniels emphasizes the importance of disciplining our thoughts and recognizing that favor can attract unwanted attention.
Yeah.
Even from people who don't have our best interests at heart.
He uses the example of Shanisha's persistent advances toward Joseph.
Yes.
Despite his initial refusals, she kept pressuring him day after day. It was a constant battle for him to resist her temptations.
And that's the reality, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even when we know what's right, our desires and impulses can make it incredibly challenging to stay true to our values.
And Dr. Daniels reminds us that the enemy is very aware of our weaknesses and will often use temptation as a way to derail us from the path God has for us.
Absolutely. He reminds us that the enemy isn't just after our material possessions or outward success, but also our integrity and our witness.
He uses a really striking phrase, the enemy wants to destroy our witness.
Ooh, I like that.
In other words, if we give in to temptation and compromise our values, it undermines our ability to reflect God's love and grace in the world.
It's a sobering thought and challenges us to consider, does our behavior align with the blessings we've received?
Right.
Are we using our blessedness to draw others closer to God?
Good question.
Or are we squandering it on selfish pursuits?
This leads us to what I think is the most crucial point, the importance of defeating temptation.
Okay.
Dr. Daniels reminds us that temptation is a part of the human experience. Even Jesus faced temptation in the wilderness.
Right.
But he also emphasizes that we are not powerless in the face of temptation.
And he uses this incredible image of Joseph literally fleeing from Potiphar's wife.
Oh, wow.
Leaving his cloak behind.
Talk about decisive action.
Yeah, it really highlights the point that sometimes we need to just run away, to put as much distance as possible between ourselves and the thing that's tempting us.
Yeah.
It could be a job offer that compromises our ethics.
Right.
A business deal that feels shady.
Yeah.
Or even just a habit or behavior that we know is harmful to ourselves or others.
Dr. Daniel's message is clear. We need to be willing to say no to things that might seem appealing in the moment.
Yeah.
But ultimately lead us away from God's best for our lives.
And that might mean making some tough choices.
Right.
Changing our environment. Yeah. Ending certain relationships. Or even just saying no to our own desires.
He reminds us that true freedom isn't about doing whatever we want,
right,
but about choosing what is right.
Okay.
Even when it's difficult.
But we're not alone in this.
That's right.
He shares a number of verses from Scripture that offer encouragement and guidance for those who are struggling with temptation.
Like 1 Corinthians 10:13.
Yes.
No temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man.
Yeah.
God is faithful, and he will not let you be tempted beyond your ability, but with the temptation, he will also provide the way of escape that you may be able to endure it.
Such a reassuring verse.
It's so
It reminds us that we're not the first people to face these challenges. And God is always there to help us through them.
And he also quotes James 4:7-8. Submit yourselves therefore to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you.
Such a powerful reminder that our relationship with God is our greatest source of strength.
I agree.
The closer we are to him, the more equipped we are to resist temptation.
Dr. Daniels also emphasizes that we can't just passively wait for God to deliver us from temptation.
Right.
We have a role to play.
Right.
We need to actively resist, to fight back against the things that are trying to pull us away from God.
And that fight might look different for each of us.
Yeah.
For some, it might mean seeking accountability from a trusted friend or mentor.
Okay.
For others, it might mean changing their routine or habits to avoid certain triggers.
It might even mean seeking professional help if the struggle is particularly intense.
The important thing is that we don't give up.
I agree.
Dr. Daniels reminds us that each victory will help you some other to win. Our faithfulness, even in the small things, can inspire and encourage others.
Absolutely. And ultimately, he reminds us that the victory has already been won.
Yes.
Jesus, through his death and resurrection, has overcome the power of sin and death.
And that victory is available to us if we choose to claim it.
We are too blessed to blow it.
Yes.
We have the power through Christ to live a life of freedom and victory over temptation.
But that freedom requires our active participation, our willingness to say no to the things that lead us astray.
Right.
And to choose the path of righteousness.
And that choice, Dr. Daniels reminds us, is a daily one.
It is.
We need to constantly be on guard, aware of the enemy's schemes, and committed to walking in the light of God's truth.
It's a lifelong journey.
It is.
But it's a journey worth taking.
Yes.
The rewards of faithfulness far outweigh the fleeting pleasures of sin.
Absolutely. And Dr. Daniels encourages us to look ever to Jesus.
Right.
To keep our eyes fixed on him who is the author and perfecter of our faith.
He is the one who understands our struggles, who has compassion on our weaknesses, and who is always ready to help us up when we fall.
So let's not take the favor God has bestowed upon us for granted.
Okay.
Let's honor it by striving to live lives of integrity, discipline, and faithfulness. Let's be the kind of people God can trust with his blessings.
Yes.
Using them to make a difference in the world.
I like that.
And to draw others closer to him.
So as we kind of wrap up our deep dive into Dr. Daniel's sermon, I'm curious to hear what resonated most with you.
You know, one thing that really stood out to me was this idea of witness.
Yeah, it's such a powerful concept, isn't it?
It really is. The idea that our lives should be a testament to God's grace and power.
And he really emphasized that the enemy wants to destroy our witness, to make us ineffective in sharing God's love with others.
And, you know, it makes sense when you think about it.
Right.
If we're constantly giving in to temptation, compromising our values, and living in a way that contradicts what we claim to believe.
It sends a mixed message.
It's like we're saying one thing with our words, but something completely different with our actions.
Exactly. And that can be so damaging.
Yeah.
Not only to our own spiritual growth, but also to the people around us.
Dr. Daniels even said that sometimes the enemy isn't even after our stuff.
Oh, wow.
He's after our influence.
Interesting.
It's not about stealing our possessions or ruining our careers.
Okay.
It's about discrediting our faith.
Yeah.
And making us ineffective in spreading the gospel.
So it's not just about our personal holiness.
Right.
It's about the impact our lives have on others.
And that's where the responsibility comes in. If we truly believe we're too blessed to blow it,
Yeah.
then we need to be intentional about how we're living our lives.
It's about asking ourselves, am I representing Christ well in my interactions with others? Is my life pointing people towards him or away from him?
And it's not about being perfect or putting on a show.
Yeah.
It's about authenticity, about letting God's light shine through us in a genuine and relatable way.
And that's where the concept of grace comes in, right?
Absolutely.
We're not going to get it right all the time. We're going to stumble. We're going to make mistakes.
God's grace is always there to pick us up.
Yes, it is.
To forgive us and to help us get back on track.
I think that's one of the most beautiful things about the Christian faith.
I agree.
We don't have to earn God's love or favor.
Right.
It's freely given to us through Christ.
And when we truly grasp that truth,
yeah,
it changes everything.
It really does.
It frees us from the pressure of trying to be perfect.
Yeah.
And empowers us to live boldly, knowing that we're loved and accepted unconditionally.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
I
want to leave our listeners with a few questions to ponder.
I like it.
First, what are the areas in your life where you feel most blessed?
Okay.
What gifts, talents, resources, or relationships has God entrusted to you?
Take stock of those blessings.
And second, how are you using those blessings to honor God and make a difference in the world? Are you being a good steward of what he has given you?
Are you allowing those blessings to shape your choices, your relationships, and the way you interact with others?
And finally, what are the temptations that you're most vulnerable to?
Okay.
What are the things that could potentially derail you from God's best for your life?
Are you being proactive in avoiding those temptations, in developing a battle plan for overcoming them?
You know, Dr. Daniels' message is a powerful reminder that we are all too blessed to blow it.
It really is.
But it's up to us to choose to live in the fullness of that blessing.
Right.
To resist temptation and to use our gifts to make a difference in the world.
And as we make that choice each day, we'll discover the incredible joy, purpose, and fulfillment that comes from walking in God's will.
Until next time, keep diving deep and keep those lights shining.